My guest today is Jeffrey A. Martinovich, who is a first Gulf War veteran, MBA, and founder and CEO of MICG Investment Management, a billion-dollar wealth management firm. After the 2008 financial crisis, Jeff rejected 3 government plea offers, resulting in a 14-year prison sentence. Yet the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed it twice, 2 U.S. District Court judges were removed, and after nearly 7 years, he was released to home confinement. And in May in 2020, he began rebuilding his life. In today's episode, we talk about his book, Just One More, The Wisdom of Bob Vukovich. That reminds us that the more we celebrate other people's success, the more we can achieve our own goals. Welcome to Lifeology.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, James.
I am looking forward to this. I don't think you know my background, but so as a psychotherapist, my practice in DC was also psychotherapy, but it was also forensics. And so the forensics aspect of it was I would have to determine if people were competent to stand trial. I would do competency evaluations. I would do risk assessments. And I would do all of that in my practice up there. So when I read this information, I was like, well, clearly none of that applies to you because there's no mental health aspect of there as well. So how is it for you, though, to have had so much press in your life, so some amazing press and then some press that isn't so good, to be on the other side of all those allegations? How is it for you to just live right now, just to be?
It has been quite a journey. I think the key every day is to be incredibly thankful that I am out here now. First of all, thankful that I have incredible opportunities work-wise with my family. And how I kind of handle it is I try to get stronger every day, just, this tiny little bit. I try to get better physically, intellectually, and emotionally, spiritually. And I say to myself, like, if I can just do that every day, a tiny, tiny bit, tomorrow's going to be better. And so I try not to catastrophize. One of my favorite words is, you start thinking about it too much. You got to use some brain compartmentalization to shift all the bad to the side, and just every day try to do as much good as possible, much forward progress as possible. And tomorrow's going to be better. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, first off, before we get started, I wanted to say congratulations on the birth of your daughter. I'm sure that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
You're going through all the things you've gone through, and then all of a sudden have this.
It's unbelievable. It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
That's great. That's awesome. Let's jump into your book, Just One More, The Wisdom of Bob Vukovich. Tell me more about that.
Well, I had written a business book, about 45 chapters. I call it Icarus, from zero to a billion to zero. So that's, not a lot of people have that story. And about 25 of the chapters were about making the $1 billion, and 15 of the chapters were all the mistakes that I made on the way down. So what I've tried to do, but then I had these like 15 other chapters, which was great wisdom from mentors that I've been lucky to be around, and life and living a life of class and grace. And they weren't really business lessons. They were more life lessons. And so we started to create this book, Just One More. And it all developed in that. And then I used a narrative parable type of format, because certainly we've all heard that we as humans learn best from listening to stories. And that's kind of how it all started to come together. And we've just been so fortunate, with the reception it's received.
That's amazing. I was looking at the rankings on Amazon. You've done incredibly well. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, Just One More. What does that mean?
That's a good question. It's really started out as kind of a joke years ago. We actually owned a part of a bistro here in Norfolk, Virginia. And so when it was time to go home, we would say, just one more, but then I've got to go. And it really morphed into more of a metaphor through this challenge of my last decade. Like, just one more time that everything's denied. Just one more time to get up off the campus. Just one more challenge we got to get over for everything to be okay. And so it seemed to be a pretty good metaphor, a pretty good tagline for the book.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, thinking about my own life, being at a bistro or being at a neighborhood joint, it's more that I get that. Just one more. And then that whole concept, I can see how that can eventually lead to just life being too overwhelming at times. But I like, like you said earlier, the reframe you had as far as if I can just do just a little bit more, the next day is going to be better. I always think of it like this. Every day, if we compartmentalize things into 25 or 24 hours, every day is a reset. So every day I have the strength I need, and I only have to worry about the strength I need for today's situations. Tomorrow's concerns are going to be another level of strength, another level of intuition, another level of whatever it might be. So if I can just look at 24 hours, or really more the 16 hours I'm awake during the day, then I can say, okay, I can accomplish anything within these 16 hours because I have the strength and the fortitude I have just for today. And the more you can break that down into the smaller increments. So sometimes it can be, I can only do this next hour. I can get through this hour. I have the strength I need for this hour. So everybody can compartmentalize it or change it to whatever time frame they want. But that's how I look at it. So I know every day when I wake up, I have what's in me, and I will be able to conquer and overcome everything that comes my way that day.
Absolutely. Somebody told me when I was kind of just starting this challenge, and even for lots of us that are, pretty well good at time management, when you go through things like this, your inbox is just so overwhelming. And it seems like every human on the planet has your cell phone number. So, and you just, you have a little nervous breakdown every day. And so the one person told me, all you can do every day is get as many things checked off your list, then pass out and go to bed, and wake up tomorrow and do it again. And if you kind of just exactly as you said, if you kind of frame it in that mindset, it's almost manageable. Like, how do you eat an elephant? Exactly. Yeah. It's that same concept. And so I agree totally.
From a psychological approach, another way to kind of look at that is anytime we feel anxiety, anxiety is usually related to something that's happening in the future. And so when we think about something in the future and we think too far out with our mind's eye, so for example, if I'm thinking about something that's happening tomorrow, my mind's eye is perceiving 24 hours ahead in my future of what may or may not happen. And so what you do is to reduce the anxiety is you bring your mind's eye back to a time frame when you don't feel that. So if in 24 hours from today, so at the time of this recording, it is 1:20 right now. So if I'm feeling that 1:20, 24 hours from now, that's too much. Let me move my mind's eye closer to maybe 10 a.m. tomorrow. So if I think about what happens at 10 a.m. tomorrow, what I think is happening, and I don't feel anxious, okay, well then I can plan that out. But that's a way to reduce the anxiety, is just to pull your mind's eye back to a time frame when you're not thinking about the thing that causes the anxiety, and therefore it reduces the anxiety significantly.
I love that. I love that. When I was away at prison, I certainly had a little bit of extra time for meditation and trying to be more present. Because certainly I, would worry about everything that's coming.
Of course.
And at least just those couple of moments a day lowered the blood pressure just enough, to fight the battle tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. The mindset that you had prior to going to prison, you thought of yourself one way. Now, walk me through the first couple months, the first couple years you were in prison. What changed with how you saw yourself pre-prison and during prison?
Right. So pre-prison, I probably was extremely confident, had a lot of success, sports, the military, and business, and financially. And so not a lot of fear and a lot of success. And I think, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that propagates more and more success. And when you go through something where you lose everything, you lose not only everything materially, because I went from the top to exact 0.00 literally, but you lose your reputation, your family, so much, everybody and you really have destroyed everything that you really are. So you start at ground zero again, kind of a blank slate. And when I was in prison, one way that I tried to handle that was I thought, gosh, I've lived an incredible life. I've traveled the world and I've had incredible relationships. So even if nothing ever got better, my life has been amazing. And so I started making lists. And these lists, and I talk about it in the book, I just write down all these great things that have happened to me in my life and all these great things I've had. Perfect. And that started to kind of give me a little confidence back and give me a little self-worth back. And then what happens is you start saying, you know what, maybe my life's not over. And then I start writing a new bucket list. Here's all the things I want to do forward. So then that takes your mind's eye, like you're speaking of, and that shifts it towards the future. And it shifts it because a lot of people in prison, or a lot of people that have lost everything, they have zero hope. And there's just, they don't even speak of the future because it's too painful. So to keep yourself out of the despair and the depression, you have to believe in some grand design that you're going to be out of this eventually. Never happens in your own time frame or what you think. And so writing things down and making all these lists helped me kind of start to feel better about myself and have a little self-worth that I could build upon every day to get a little stronger for hope forward.
That's amazing. We often hear about gratitude. And so sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I've written a gratitude list and I've done this and I've done that, which is great. But there's a difference between the little g gratitude and actually what true gratitude means. And you actually did this yourself. When we think about life and we have all these feelings and anxiety or whatever it might be, our body is, let me back up. So in psychology, we teach that whatever you perceive to be true. In other words, what you think about determines what you feel. What you feel determines what your body does. So when it comes to gratitude, if my life is going in a way that in the moment I'm feeling a certain way, if I do what you did and I start to focus on a memory that I really enjoyed, that always brought me joy, that brought me peace, that brought me whatever emotion I want to feel. When I think about that, and allow myself to really feel it. And what I mean by that is when you can viscerally feel something by using all of your internal five senses. So your sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of taste, sense of touch, sense of smell. When you use all five of those, when you go into your mind and really think about that, the longer you can sit with those five senses as you relive the moment, all of a sudden, once again, your thoughts determine your emotions. Then all of a sudden you have these feelings of joy, of gratitude, of peace. And then what happens, which is really cool, and all of a sudden your body starts to produce dopamine. Dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters that makes us feel really good. It gives us determination. It gives us motivation. It gives us purpose. It gives all of that. So what you did was actually create a list of gratitude, and you sat with those memories and allowed your body to recalibrate and reproduce the dopamine your body needed. So therefore you could then say, okay, what does my future look like? So this is a wonderful example for all of my listeners right now and viewers, is when you are struggling with something, you can do exactly what Jeff did. And you can think about something and use all of your mind's five senses. And the more you sit with that, all of a sudden you'll see that your body starts to produce something different and you start to feel better and you start to feel joy. And then from there, then you can go to be solution focused and future oriented. And that will allow you to then go to the next day or the next moment or the next whatever. And then if you struggle again, you find another memory, the same memory or a different memory. Keep doing it over and over again and you rewire your brain's chemistry.
Fantastic. I agree. And I even following some Tony Robbins types of things is that, why even looking into the future, it's not really that Ferrari we want to acquire. It's the feeling we have when we have that Ferrari. So we can choose psychologically to have that feeling, even if we aren't there yet. And so that was that second step that you are so right on, that if I felt like I'm going to be successful again, and I'm going to rebuild for my shareholders and myself and get more self-worth back, then you start to actually feel it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
What the person today, let me back up. The comparison, the juxtaposition between pre-prison and today, what's different and what's the same?
Well, certainly the stereotype lots of times in the movies is, we were this terrible person before, and we were the wolf of Wall Street, and now we found religion, and we're like a great person forward. Yeah. And I think what I discovered through this process, even in prison, there were a lot of really great gentlemen there who were already good people, and but it certainly does help you recenter on your gratitude and making sure that you're living every day and maximizing every day because you have freedom. We certainly take freedom for granted. Years ago, I had cancer and was fortunate to get through that. And afterwards, I would say this prayer every day, please, Lord, let me keep this feeling as long as possible because this helps me, master this day so much better. And of course, what happens over the years, you get into the rat race and you forget about that and you whine about everything. And in one way, having this collapse experience really kind of gave me that same feeling back. And I think the secret is, can I be strong enough to keep that gratitude every day? And it's not just feeling great that I'm here, but it's also like re-energized to maximize. I think we didn't come down to the planet to hang out, retire, go fishing, and then that was it. I think we came down here to maximize it and blow it out as much as possible. Yes. I forget the poem, slide into our graves, scarred and battered and beaten in our body, as much as possible. Yeah. And so, I think that's the objective. And so I think that has really helped me refocus and energize on that. And, maybe try to do it twice as good as before.
Yeah. And I'm sure you will. When looking at your book again, just one more, The Wisdom of Bob Vukovich. I really do like the parable of that. It's, I guess going with the bistro that you had, a young man comes in and he meets this Bob Vukovich, who then gives him all this information. Help me understand the different topics that are in this narrative or is in your book.
Right. I think it's a mix of idealistic looking at life, trying to lead a life of class and grace, as well as some practical tips. And I kind of view Bob, people ask me, is Bob a real person? He's kind of not really a real person, but I think he's more an amalgamation of many mentors. A lot of us weren't lucky enough to have that wise grandfather who told us all the things we were supposed to know. And so a little bit about this book is trying to teach young Cole, those kind of life views. So some things are like, how to be in love, the top 10 ways to be in love with a beautiful woman, because we screw that one up all the time. How to host a golf round, some of these practical things that help you lead a life of more class and grace, but also on the other side, how to help expand our brain and how to have our eyes open, because Bob tries to teach him that really, the great majority of what we think is true today very possibly is not. And history has shown that many times we are very wrong. And so it's about expanding the mind, having the courage to say, I don't know, and being able to be open to new ideas and different types of people and different types of occurrences.
Yeah. The type of people, who would be the type of people who would read this book?
Well, it really has found a very broad section of readers. Sure. I've been really surprised by it. There's people who have been through life events where they've been on the canvas and they've made it back and they've really enjoyed the story. And then it's one of those things where, if you're not careful, by the time you're done with the story, you might have learned a lot of things that you didn't really realize you were learning during the story. Yeah. And then there's another group that seems to really more enjoy the lessons. And when it's kind of like they went to a business or a life seminar and took good notes and came away with a lot of actionable takeaways. And so it's been interesting to listen to the reviews, read the reviews of people. People enjoy it differently.
Yeah, I see that as well, because I was looking at the different rankings that I had for the different categories. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's pretty broad when it comes to the business development, the leadership, the self-help. And so it was pretty neat to see all the different aspects of how your book can really encapsulate all that together and that people can enjoy it so much. Yeah, my pleasure. What would be the biggest lesson so as you wrote this, what was the biggest lesson that stood out to you that's in this book?
Well, I think the biggest concept outside of the story of perseverance and resilience that I hope we all do. And, so many people have accomplished so many great things that my small story, is very minor compared to the incredible things people have overcome. I would say that the theme of the book is, want to be constantly learning and constantly open, because certainly we all know today what we see on TV, what we read in the newspapers, most of the time, if not at least a lot of the time, is incorrect. It's all a narrative, and it's a narrative and a story sculpted by others to control how we feel, how we believe, how we spend our money, what we think is right and wrong. And so I hope it can inspire some people to think for themselves, have the courage to ask, why am I here? And have the courage to say, you know what? I'm not going to believe that just because society is telling me that. I'm going to find my own truths. And I think that's the biggest point.
I agree with you 100%, because as we know, either we're told something by our environment when we were children, and so that creates a negative core belief. And so every time life happens, our core belief says, James, you're so stupid, you can't do this. And so if that's the case, then unfortunately we are allowing life, our environment, our own thoughts to really determine what that is. And so I'm really glad to see that you help people really focus on, who do I want to be? Not what does the world expect of me, but who do I want to be, and how can I actualize that? And then how can I do that?
That's great. Yeah, that was a much better summary than I said it.
Well, thank you. We only have a couple more minutes here, but I wanted to ask you, one of the things that the book does focus on is to really celebrate other people's success. Why do you think that's so important?
Wow. I have seen in business and of course in life, the more we celebrate others, and Schadenfreude is the term for like celebrating others' mishaps, and unfortunately that slips into all of our daily routine, and we're jealous of the person next door who gets the new vehicle or the promotion or whatever it would be. But you find these rare people that are like cheerleaders for everyone else, and they get really true joy out of their friend getting a promotion or someone else getting married or whatever it would be. And as you've seen, the karma of the universe, the electrical input, you can either put into this electric grid out there, you can either put electrons out there with negative charges, or you can put out protons with positive charges. And that's what comes back to you. And so we have seen, and it's been proven in all kinds of studies, that the person who helps everyone around them make more money, do better in business, get into college, get that date, that person ends up living an amazing life. In business, I teach our consulting clients, I say, spend your whole day giving referrals to all your other partners and clients, and you'll never have to ask for a referral your whole day. You see restaurants. Right. Restaurants all group in the same area in town, and you wonder, why are they all like right next door to each other? But they group there, and they cheerlead that they hope that all the other restaurants do great, because then they know they will also. Exactly. Yeah. And so that's the concept, and we have to proactively believe that and think of it every day to act in that manner. And it comes back to us 10 times over.
It certainly does. It certainly does. I remember when I was younger, I obviously wasn't who I am today. Nobody is. But I remember when other people would get success, I'd be like, I can't believe that, I'm better than them at this or that. And then finally I had that, that epiphany of, so my higher power is God. And so I was like, God, I don't get this. And I felt, this, he didn't actually speak to me, but just my thoughts were, I have more than enough blessings for everybody. Do you think that one person getting a raise here means that you can't get a raise, or whatever it might be? Right. And so it kind of just changed my perspective. And I was like, okay, well, if, the universe, God, whomever has control over everything, or, is part of everything, why would I think that my small-minded thinking, and all of a sudden, it was a surprise to him. He's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So it's kind of funny. So the older I am, and the more lifeology evolves, I love helping people. I love, if I can connect people, I always connect people. If I can do something, I enjoy that, because I believe in synergy. So the more one person levels up and I can be a part of helping them level up, then I level up. And so the synergy is kind of like a tornado. So when a tornado happens, and the more it spins, and all of a sudden it gets bigger and bigger, and it sucks other things in. And so when it goes up, because of the way it spins, I'm like, oh, there I go. And I get to go up as well. So that's kind of how I think of it as well, is there's more than enough blessings, more than enough opportunities for every single person. So the more you're excited about it, you will get sucked up into that, quote, tornado, if you will, and allows you to level up as well.
Yes. You see some people have views of abundance, and unfortunately, a great deal of people have views of scarcity. And we have to change our thinking from just because someone else gets good. It's not taking anything away from me. It's only going to help me. We have to remember the pie is not finite. The pie is infinite. And we can keep, so it's not like other people are taking slices from us. It's really the more we help them have some pie, we will always have that.
Exactly. Well, unfortunately, our time is up. We literally flew through this conversation. Jeffrey Martinovich, if my listeners want to find more information about you and to purchase this book and to work with you, the book, one more time, is Just One More, The Wisdom of Bob Vukovich. Where would they find this information online?
Right. Most of the sales come on Amazon. But the easiest way is my personal website is kind of the holding repository of consulting, coaching, speaking, the books. And that's just simply www.jeffmartinovich.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on my show today. I really appreciate all your expertise.
James, thank you. I really enjoyed it.